Recently, in Jasper, Alabama, a landscaper for the radio station WJLX was heading to one of the radio station's radio towers to clean up the area around the tower and discovered that the entire 200-foot high radio tower had gone missing. The tower had been stolen, along with broadcasting equipment stored in a nearby building. But how is this possible? From ABC News, WJLX manager Brett Elmore said that he suspects that the tower's guy wire was cut first, which would have brought the structure to the ground. He then believes it was cut into smaller pieces and hauled away. Some pretty simple tools you could get from Home Depot could cut this up in no time, he said. I'm sorry, what? I kind of would have suspected that a 200-foot high radio tower would be a little more, robust. Okay. It also sucks because the station didn't have any insurance on the radio tower. So it's going to take tens of thousands of dollars to rebuild it, which sucks for this random radio station. This story is reminiscent of a story from just last month, way back in January, in which two Oklahoma criminals toppled a 500-foot radio tower in order to steal just $100 worth of copper, causing $500,000 worth of damage in the process. They didn't even steal the metal to sell for scrap like in the last story. But unlike the last story, the two suspects have been arrested. I would imagine that their punishment is going to be worse because of how much damage they did. Which, remember, $500,000 worth. Most criminals that steal copper from radio towers don't cut down the entire tower, which I know is surprising considering two separate radio towers were cut down within a month of each other. But normally that's how it's done. I think they just climb up the tower to steal the copper. So last week, we covered a story about how the groundhog Punxsutawney Phil predicted in early spring last Groundhog's Day. However, Punxsutawney Phil is not the only groundhog that makes a prediction on Groundhog's Day. For example, in Kentucky, Major the Groundhog has also prognosticated the weather on Groundhog's Day for the past several years. However, in the cold early morning of last Groundhog's Day, just hours before he was due to give his prediction, Major the Groundhog died. Wow. That does seem like a bad sign. Yeah, I missed the story last week, but it's too insane not to mention that Major the Groundhog's prediction for the spring is death. Researching the story, I also found out that there was also another groundhog in Milltown, New Jersey. The groundhog was named Milltown Mel, who also prognosticates the weather. I'm sorry, who did prognosticate the weather, because in 2022, 2 years ago, just days before he was set to give his prediction, Milltown Mel died. How often does this happen? This happened in 2016 as well, I think. There was a groundhog that died the day before Groundhog's Day. So while it does seem bad that Major the Groundhog died on Groundhog's Day before he was set to give his prediction, it also happened in 2016 and in 2022. And were those years so bad? Anyways, you may have heard this. We're moving on to our next story. Last month, there was an incident on an Alaskan Airlines Boeing 737 MAX 9 where 6 minutes into a passenger flight, a door plug blew off the plane, causing the plane to depressurize. A door plug is when an emergency door in a plane isn't needed. It's made into the plane, but it's not needed, so it's plugged. They're not designed to fall off, generally. Anyways, the cabin depressurized, and it would have been very loud. No one was sucked out of the airplane, and just by chance, no one was sitting right next to the door plug when it blew off. But people did lose their phones. One kid lost his shirt. It was torn off of him. and the cockpit door flew open, causing the pilots to lose their emergency checklist. I guess they had their emergency protocol printed off on a laminated piece of paper. And I guess after their cockpit door flew open, the emergency checklist just blew out of the plane. Oh, I feel so much better now that we have our emergency checklist all laminated. I know I won't forget anything. And then just to see it like blow out the plane the very next flight. One of the pilots lost their headset as well, so communication was an issue because of how loud it was. The plane was able to land safely, however. The door plug landed safely in some guy's backyard, and no one was killed. But why did this happen? The plane was too new for this to have happened from normal wear and tear. A recent report from the National Transportation Safety Board has suggested that at the time of this incident, the door plug was missing 4 bolts. I mean, this is like cartoonish levels of nonsense. The airplane had gone through maintenance just a few months prior when the door plug had to be removed and then reinstalled. And we know through pictures at the time that the bolts were missing. So presumably both maintenance and inspection crews didn't notice the missing 4 bolts. This comes after 2 737 MAX 8 jets crashed in 2018 and 2019, killing 346 people. I don't know why horrific accidents just keep happening to Boeing, but it's not looking great for them. A warning that this next story is gross. In other plane news, a Delta Airlines flight from Amsterdam to Detroit was forced to turn around after maggots were discovered on board the plane. One passenger saw a dozen maggots fall from an overhead bin and land on a passenger. It turned out to be rotting fish that was wrapped in newspaper in a passenger's carry-on bag, and the plane was forced to turn around. I'm going to be honest, this one is a new one for me. We've done a lot of discussing plane stories, but never maggots. Cross it off the list. So this is a story I missed, but I still wanted to cover. Last month in Alabama, a convicted murderer named Eugene Smith was the first person to be put to death using nitrogen gas. The idea is that breathing pure nitrogen gas will cause one to asphyxiate. In fact, this was the first new execution method to be used since 1982 when lethal injection was introduced. I guess that it's been a lot harder to execute someone using lethal injection, though, because by 2016, the last open market source of the drugs used in lethal injection, Pfizer, decided to block their drugs from being used in executions, which is probably a good thing. I mean, I remember occasionally hearing stories of botched lethal injections where the drugs wouldn't work quite right, and the person would just suffer for hours before dying. What about nitrogen gas, though? Well, veterinary scientists generally consider euthanasia of most mammals by using nitrogen gas inhumane, which is not a great sign that it's considered inhumane to be used on animals. But screw it. Let's use it on a human to just see what happens. Smith was supposed to slip unconscious soon after the administration of nitrogen gas began, but witnesses say that Smith was conscious for several minutes and shook and convulsed on the gurney, sometimes pulling against the restraints for at least 2 minutes. I mean, admittedly, this isn't as bad as a botched lethal injection, which could have lasted for several hours and caused several hours worth of suffering instead of just minutes. But on the other hand, the guillotine was more humane. I don't know why criminals can't be executed in a way that isn't horrifying. We're constantly inventing new ways to torture criminals to death. A Florida state congressman, Jason Schoaf, S-H-O-A-F, Schoaf, I guess so. Jason Schoaf has recently introduced a bill which would remove penalties for killing bears in self-defense. I mean, it does seem reasonable, doesn't it? However, in the closing arguments during a debate regarding this bill, it got weird. The congressman that proposed the bill, Schoaf, said, and I quote, "Bears are cute and cuddly and an amazing creature. Those aren't the bears we're talking about in this bill. We're talking about the ones that are on crack. They break your door down and they're standing in your living room growling and tearing your house apart. When you run into one of these crack bears, you should be able to shoot it, period. And you shouldn't have to pause or be afraid that you're going to get arrested or harassed or pay fines. That's just crazy. I don't know how many crack bears there are in Florida, but I will say the thing is that you can already kill a bear in Florida in self-defense. I mean, there have been people in the past in Florida that have shot bears in self-defense and were not charged with a crime. So I don't get the point. Also, the same congressman that introduced this bill was advocating last year for a bear hunt in Florida, saying that there were, quote, too many bears. So this guy is very clearly passionate about killing bears, or at least terrified of bears. Actually, way back in 2015, there actually was a bear hunt in Florida where it was legal to kill bears with, I guess, hunting licenses probably. But it ended after 2 days because hundreds and hundreds of bears were killed within just 2 days. Unhinged all around. A French man has spent the last 8 years building a 23.3-foot model of the Eiffel Tower from 706,900 matchsticks. However, Guinness World Records initially told him that he was disqualified from the world record of world's tallest matchstick sculpture because he had used the wrong matchsticks. The rules state that the matches need to be commercially available, but the sculptor had struck a deal to buy matchsticks in bulk from some company. Honestly, that does suck. There's no other way to say it. It straight up sucks. Good news, however, Guinness World Records has recently reversed its decision and given the man the record. So that's good. But for a decent moment, that really sucked for that guy. I mean, you just wasted 8 years of your life building this sculpture. I mean, that still is true, but at least now he's being recognized for it. I'm just going to read this next headline out loud. Rescue cat refuses to eat food unless it comes with side salad. No side salad, human? Well, I guess I'm going to starve. So this cat was a rescue. So it was probably eating like human food as a kitten, like human garbage. To make it worse, the cat had a stomach infection after it had been adopted, which required the cat to be fed chicken and rice for 6 weeks, boosting the cat's demand for human food. To be fair to the cat, it will only refuse to eat flavors of cat food it doesn't like or is bored with, unless there is a side salad. I can't imagine cat food tastes good as well. You know what? The more I think about it, the more I'm on this cat's side. And so is a salad. We have reached the last article of the week, and it is weird. So a stingray at a North Carolina aquarium is pregnant with 4 pups, which is weird because she lives with no male stingrays. She lives alone with no male stingrays. 2 theories exist. One is Parthenogenesis, an embryo developing asexually from an unfertilized egg cell, which would result in the stingray producing clones of herself, right? This is unusual in stingrays, though, so that would be pretty unusual. The other explanation is, in my opinion, weirder. This female stingray, Charlotte, is her name. Charlotte doesn't live with any male stingrays, but it does live with male sharks. Workers at the aquarium have noticed bite marks on Charlotte the stingray, which is a sign of mating behavior in sharks. So, possibly, we are looking at a stingray shark crossbreed. DNA testing will be done on the stingrays once they are born to see what exactly has happened here. But you probably could tell if they're Shark-Stingray crossbreeds just by looking at them, because they would probably be saying like, kill me. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. But we'll be paying attention to the story very closely. How long does it take for stingrays to give birth? 4 to 11 months? Okay. So we'll find out in 4 to 11 months. I'm excited. Anyways, that's all the news. Yeah, that's all the news. Yeah.